Well, hello, everyone. Irit Eizips here for CSM Practice, your podcast to anything cool in customer success that people in the trenches are actually doing that is actually working and that you can do too. And today we're going to actually share something that you can easily do with just a Google form. You heard me, no special tools or big, heavy investments in technology. Anybody can do this. And the result is going to be a major uplift in your net retention rate. Can't wait to hear about it. So am I. I have Sara Areco. She's from the Netherlands and she's the head of customer success at a company called Antavo. Sara, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk more about how we did this.
Well, maybe we could just give people a little bit of a context about your team. What customers do you typically work with? What kind of problems do you help them solve?
At Antavo, we are still in the startup scale up phase. We're around 100 employees, and in my team, I have 4 people, but we're actually going to get to 5 in the next month, which makes me very excited. We have both customer success managers and a customer experience manager, which I think is what makes us a little bit unique outside in the market. We do help them in strategize about their loyalty programs that they build thanks to our technology. So we're consulting them and helping them in grow their loyalty strategy, mostly on B2C side. And some of our customers are, for example, KFC in the UK or Kathmandu in Australia. So we work with very big and international brands all over the place in different industries.
When you started working with this team, what were some of the main challenges that you've seen in working with customers that made you think, I'm going to leverage a Google form here and make this all go away? What was the big thing you were trying to make a difference in and change?
I think the most important aspect was that we were having so many conversations. We're a very high touch team. So we talk with customers on a monthly basis, and more often than not, even more often than that. So almost on a weekly basis, we have calls with them, we send each other emails, and all of these conversations were, of course, in our HubSpot notes, but they were not tracked in a deeper way about customer sentiment, what customers were feeling, what were their ideas. So this is what actually brought us to try and track as much as possible all the conversations we were having in terms of customer experience and how they were feeling about interacting with us under different points of view.
Can I ask, why was this important for you? So I got it. They did have conversations with clients. Obviously, you didn't have visibility, but why was that important? What were you thinking? Like, okay, if this goes on and nobody addresses it, what happens to the business in like 3 to 5 years from now?
In the calls we have with customers, there are so many good insights into how to change, for example, processes or how we can improve our product or anything about our people. And a lot of times there are a lot of compliments, and we do want to make sure that we also recognize the great people that work with us. So all of this was just getting out there and not sitting anywhere. And that was just so much a pity because we were not making sure to track this. And of course, we have calls with the product team or with other teams to give them feedback about how customers feel. But without actually writing them down and tracking them, then they're not very actionable items. So what we started to do was collect this information and categorize them in this Google form. For example, feedback on people, on product, communication style. And we started tracking what were the most frequent topics, what was the sentiment like. So we usually score between very negative, very positive, and try to go from there with initiatives. But I'm sure you'll ask me more about it in just a second.
Before we dive in, because I'm sure there's a lot of details that are very important to nail to make this work. How long ago has it been since the first Google form was filled out?
So it's been around 2 years, which is a very long time. We started around 2 years ago and we've grown through time. And we are always looking for ways to improve it. This year we changed it again. We try to change it and keep it up to date on a yearly basis, maximum 6 months, because otherwise the data is not going to be consistent. But yeah, 2 years ago, it seems like 10, but it was actually 2.
Okay, so what changed since then? What are some of the major things that it was able to impact? What changed in the business?
So what happened was definitely an increase in positive sentiment that we recorded from the customers. If you think last year, we were actually averaging towards 20% of a net positive sentiment. This year, actually last month, we've just issued a report and it was 31%, and everybody was very disappointed because the average this year is 40%. So we've gone up every single year in how customers feel about us. And that makes us feel also good about ourselves and our job. And it drives us to do better and drive more initiatives.
So, an increase in customer satisfaction. Was
That's
there any
correct.
other impact that you could tell? Yes, from by doing that, what else was
We've
impacted?
definitely decreased the amount of escalations and also tickets that we need to manage on a daily basis. So that definitely helped the whole customer division team. And at the same time, I do think that a happy customer makes for a customer that completes advocacy opportunities. So is more available for case studies or leaving references, referrals, all of this. And is also a customer that wants to pay more. So they are happier with the service. So when you actually go into a renewal conversations, and give them a price increase, they're not going to be, oh, we had a lot of issues though. They're not going to be happy that your price increasing. They're never happy about that, but they're going to definitely welcome it in a completely different way. So even conversations about renewals and upsells are very different.
Tell me about this form. What's included in this form that made all of this happen?
The form basically tracks what customers we have, all the list of all the customers, and you just select which one is the feedback from. Then you go into the main topic. So, is it about product, process, people, communication? What is it about? And then we go even into more specifics. If it is about ticket resolution, implementation, is it about executive business review from CSMs, marketing initiative? What it is about exactly. And then a space for quotes or any summary of what the customer actually said. And then we leave the space for your feeling about how the customer is feeling at the moment. So you can enter whatever you want: frustrated, passive aggressive, very happy, whatever the CSM or the person filling in the form is feeling at that moment. And then this will menu analyze afterwards.
Who gets the form and what triggers letting them know that they need to fill it out?
The form is linked in our Slack channel for the customer division. So everybody is just one click away, literally, from using the form. And if everybody has access on a weekly basis, at the beginning, our customer experience manager, she used to have one-on-one meetings of like 15 minutes with every single person in the customer division to tell them, hey, do you have any entries for voice of the customer? And now people actually remember, so that's great. But we also have a calendar reminder for every week on Fridays. Hey, remember, do the voice of the customer form, please.
They don't get an email from a Zapier trigger that, oh, if you had a client meeting, you're going to fill it out immediately after. It's just something that you do once a Friday. You look at all the meetings you had with customers, if any. And if you did, you could choose to fill out a form about it, or you could just skip that call because it was a very quick call and who cares?
Ideally, every customer success manager especially fills in the form multiple times a week, even simply because as a general practice, we tell that the fresher the feedback, the more accurate the feedback actually is. And if you can go word by word is the best feedback you can give. But if you forgot for whatever reason, you had too many meetings, you can always do it on a Friday. But even in one call, customers always share feedback. They can say, oh, this makes me very happy. And that's already great if you give it context. You need to know what they're happy about, or, this product functionality doesn't resonate very much with me. I don't think I'm going to use it. That's already feedback, and that's very valuable for everyone, for our product team, for example, to know a feature, is it helpful, is it not helpful, how do they want to change it. So every call contains some feedback. So we end up even with multiple entries from one call.
For one call. Do you mind sharing how the form looks like?
It looks like this. So it's going to go under my name, the customer to choose from, what phase they're in, the date, the contact, if it is about a partner or not, situation, just more about it was a monthly meeting, or it was an escalation call, or it was an email, what is it about? If there is any tickets that we can associate to this, perception of how the customer feels, the quotes, and then the topic, we have people, process, products, program, and communication. Obviously, anybody can put whatever they want in here. And then, as we said, general process. It is general, it is about tickets, renewal, expansion, whatever it is. That's it. And then they hit send.
So this content goes into a Google workbook, but does it also go into HubSpot?
It doesn't go into HubSpot, it just goes into the Google form. And then into the Google form, our customer experience manager selects if the feedback is very negative or very positive and anything in between. And then every single entry is associated with a number, which makes it very mathematical and very data driven way to measure the data. That's how we got to the net positive sentiment score. So NPS for us doesn't stand for Net Promoter Score, it stands for Net Positive Sentiment in this case, because we make everything data driven thanks to this.
What converts there to a number? Because it's a lot of like, ooh, I felt he felt like this, or I felt he felt like that. How do you convert that to a score?
Well, first of all, it's only one person doing it. And usually the feedback that we receive is like, oh my God, this is so great, with a meme. That's very positive usually. Or if we receive something more like, oh, I like that poll, it was very helpful. That's obviously positive, but not very positive. We also have neutral as an option. But I think what makes a difference is just experience. And after you've seen 10 of those, you're already a little bit better when you're the first one. And then when you see 100 and then 1,000, I don't know how many we have right now. So many, but obviously becomes a little bit of expertise in doing that.
Yeah, what's your secret, Sarah? How did you encourage or drove change management? Like you're first introducing it, some people are going to be like, is it really going to stick? Maybe I don't have to do it. And it sounds like everybody's almost excited to do it at this point. So, what drove the change and allowed these CSMs to get excited about doing this on the reg?
I'm very happy you asked that question because I think that's one of the proudest achievements ever. Actually getting people to care and want to do entries. What we did last year was publish a yearly customer experience report. So basically what we did was compare these results to also qualitative interviews that our customer experience manager did with the customers at the end of the year. Then we compare that with CSAT from tickets and monthly CSATs that we usually send out, and that all combined, all merged together into one single piece of report that we presented in the management team. We presented them to every single team, and we did so individually, not all together, because we all know that during the all hands, nobody is listening too much. But maybe they're sending emails in the meantime, they're doing their own things. By taking every single team individually and telling them the results that we found, that made people care. And even people from finance and HR that they're not usually so engaged with customers' life cycle and how customers are doing, they were very engaged, asking questions. And when the results were out, everybody was talking about it. So I was very happy. And that made people say, oh, but I actually do have something to say. I didn't agree with this point, Sarah. That was actually the key. By saying, I have more to say, I don't agree with this point. This doesn't reflect my experience. I said, okay, if it doesn't reflect your experience, then do the entries. And there we go.
You gave them power through submitting the entries.
Absolutely. I think it was the key to make their voice feel heard. It's also very much voice of the employee as it is voice of the customer ultimately.
Amazing. How long did it take to implement from the moment you ideated and created the form? How long did it get it to the maturity level that it is now?
I would lie if I told you that it took less than between 6 and 12 months, honestly. So it took definitely a while. It took a lot of meetings, a lot of effort, a lot of saying, no, you should do this because we have results. And we also publish reports monthly and quarterly. So everybody can see and everybody is aware of what this information produces. But it wasn't until the yearly one that people actually started to care more.
At hindsight, what would you have done differently?
I would have probably have had already the vision of the yearly report and how it was going to come together. I didn't. It was honestly a random Wednesday. I had the idea with our customer experience manager. I was like, hey, why don't we do that? And so it wasn't the original plan, but thinking back, probably we could have had it as the original plan and presented it so that people would be a little bit motivated to fill in the entries in the form.
Obviously, right now you have the VP of CX or the head of CX analyzing these. I feel like there's two biased points. One, the vernaculars of the CSM adding the input into the form, and then the vernaculars of the one analyzing it. Are you at some point thinking about, how can we make it even less biased, less like my perception, your perception?
A
And
hundred percent.
yeah,
All the time. I've looked into AI tools that can do that. For example, even during calls, maybe analyze the sentiment, take extracts, but nobody is quite there with the technology yet. And I'm not finding on the market anything that satisfies our needs. If anybody is listening and has a product that can satisfy our need, feel free to pitch it.
yeah, put it in the comments to this episode, please. Everybody wants to know what AI solutions or actually technologies do you know that can actually deliver this form, do a verbatim analysis, score. How did you call that score again, Sarah?
We do it by assigning a number from very negative, negative, neutral, positive, and very positive. And then we do analysis based on the topics that come up the most, also on trust and sentiment.
Yeah, so it's a net positive sentiment score that Sarah and her team invented here. It's very similar to NPS, like your net promoter score, but it's a little bit different. So if you know of a system that can automate it, put it in the comments below. We'll go check it out. I always ask my guests when I get a chance, what inspires you as the head of customer success? What kind of podcasts do you listen to? Books that you have read that you totally recommend others to check those out?
I love This is Growth from Daphne Lucas Costa, the director of customer success at HubSpot. I also love Maria Scopile, and I'm actually a mentor also for women in customer success. I also love her podcast. I think it's right. It's very practical as well. Very much like This is Growth. They're very practical with very tangible advices for CS leaders or anybody looking for to start a career in customer success.
Yeah, I was very lucky to be featured on Women in CS podcast. Wonderful interviews. She's so talented. Everybody should check
She
it out.
really is.
We'll introduce all these links in the description of this episode and go check those out, subscribe, see what else you can learn. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on our show. You've been absolutely fantastic. I've learned something new and I love your score. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to the episode.
Everyone, if you got an aha moment here, you learned something new, share it in the comments below. Give Sarah some good vibes and energies for taking the time to share and coming here at 6 p.m. from the Netherlands to interview for our show and share what works for her team. And I thought this was absolutely brilliant. Never heard of this before. And I'm so happy that it works for you, Sarah. I can't wait to see how else you take it on with all these AI solutions and what else opens up for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah. All right. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, give this video a like, and I'll see you on the next episode.